and the HIV part, it came back positive. And I just went into a silent scream, and he went to hug me, but I was pushing him away. I'm like, no, don't touch me.
It's Channel Mom with Jenny Dean Schmidt. We're here for you.
I'm Tom Walker with American Family Insurance. If you have questions about insurance or other services we provide, I want to help. You're always welcome to contact me or simply stop by my office so we can get to know each other. Thanks for visiting and have a great day.
Call Tom at Tom Walker Agency, your American Star certified agency. Excellence in customer experience at TomWalkerInsurance.com.
Barb is going to tell her story, and then we're going to tell you how they're using it to help the world, including thousands and thousands of teenagers.
Okay, thank you. I was raised in a home where, we had Bible stories, and I always thought I had to be perfect for God in order for him to love me, and I always felt like I was disappointing him. And I was also always trying to be perfect in school. Well, when I was 12 years old, there was an adult male who started to abuse me, and then my parents started going through a divorce. My father had been having an affair, and then I found out as we went through the divorce that he had actually had multiple affairs.
So you had all kinds of horrible feelings going on at that point about men.
Yes.
Yeah.
And exactly. It turned me into looking at marriages and is it really worth it? Is it possible? And so I thought I'd rather be single the rest of my life and just become self-sufficient emotionally, financially.
Yeah.
So I went to college, got a grant and scholarship, and I got to college, and I thought I was in all this control. I wasn't going to be used like my mom, and but I never thought about controlling my sexual boundaries. My parents had told me, to have boundaries and set boundaries, but I never learned how to have the conversations about setting boundaries. So I would just get in the relationships, and things would get physical, and I just let them get physical. I just really didn't know how to have conversations about it. And I started drinking, so my boundaries deteriorated. Yeah. So my sophomore year, a guy invited me back to his apartment, became my first experience. We broke up 2 weeks later,
So it was just a 2-week relationship.
2 weeks. And then I felt so guilty and, I took a philosophy class that said God and religion were man-made inventions to keep social order. And so I thought, that makes sense. So I abandoned my belief that good marriage was possible, that God existed. And I just would, date a guy for a couple of months. And then when it looked like we were going to break up, I'd break it up with him before he broke it up with me. And finally, when I was 25, a friend said, God's love for you is unconditional. You don't have to be perfect. He made, and so I started reading the Bible and I finally, really gave my heart to Jesus and
you just recommitted your life to God.
Yep.
Maybe you'd never done it before.
I really hadn't before. I mean, I'd been following, but I never really understood that he had paid it. I always thought I had to earn his love. So I continued on, and when I was 27, I went and started in a Christian singles group, and I met Rick at this Christian singles group, and
Rick's in the house.
Yes.
Did you remember the day you met her?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we started dating, and on one of our first dates, Rick tells me that he is waiting until marriage in order to protect his future family. Yeah. And I think it's awesome, but I don't say anything because of my sexual past.
Yeah.
So I changed the subject immediately because I'm wondering, is he going to still like me? But eventually we're heading towards marriage. So we were making macaroni and cheese one night, and I remember I just went up and said to him, told him about my past. And he said, hey, I know that God's forgiven you. I offer you my forgiveness. And it's not about your perfection. It's about your direction. I see who you are. I love you. I want to keep going. And I was like, yay. So, but then I started thinking, well, Rick was a virgin. He'd never been tested. And I thought I'd never been tested for STDs. And I thought, well, I might as well get tested and put my past behind me. Yeah. So I went in. There was an anonymous testing center. I had to wait 2 weeks for the results. I wasn't worried, didn't have any symptoms. Yeah. I go in, and they said that I walk in, and the testing counselor says, your HIV test, it came back positive.
How old were you, 27?
I was only 27, and that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I'm only 27 years old. I'm in love. I want to get married. This can't be.
What did you do immediately when she said it?
I just froze, but my brain kept rejecting it. It kept going, this isn't true. This isn't true. There's a mistake. There's a mistake somewhere. So finally I thought, I figured out where the mistake is. It's the lab made a mistake. So I asked the counselor, there must be a mistake at the lab. And she said, well, we do a retest to make sure. So I said, okay, can I find out tomorrow? And they said, no, it'd take a week because this was in 1993. And they were gave me a little blue book that was supposed to tell me what my life with AIDS will be like. And I was just trying to leave. And they said, no, you've got to come with us. And they took us into another room, took me into another room. And there was a woman there from the Colorado State Health Department. And she said, we need to go through your past and anyone who might have possibly been exposed, because this virus, the only way we can keep it from spreading is to contact everyone. So I had to go through the next 2 hours to think about my past and who might be exposed. So I gave her 6 names. I drove home and I was just in shock. I was just numb.
What did you do in terms of Rick?
Yeah, so I went, the first night I was just crying. My mind was overwhelmed with thoughts that, everyone's going to reject you, because it was kind of like leprosy at the time.
Yeah.
And I knew that God wouldn't reject me even if the whole world rejected me.
Yeah.
So I just, but I cried all night. And I was going to wait for the retest results before I told Rick, but I couldn't stop crying. And he's such a good man. I thought we had such a transparent relationship. He needs to know.
What was your greatest fear when you told him?
I knew he'd be gone. I knew he'd be gone. I mean, he was a great guy, but why would anybody stay? We were engaged. We were, there was no reason for him to stay. So we drove to the park, and I just, I wouldn't even look at him or talk to him the whole way over there. So finally he's like, tell me just what's going on? What's going on? And I just said, well, remember when I told you that I had a sexual past? Well, I went and got tested for STDs, and the HIV part, it came back positive. And I just went into a silent scream, and he went to hug me, but I was pushing him away. I'm like, no, don't touch me, because I still didn't understand about HIV and AIDS. Mm-hmm. But he said, no, it's okay. I've been trained at work, and I know it's okay. I can touch you. And so he just held me. And then I thought, okay, I'm not going to make him end this. I'll just get it over with. And so I said, I know this is going to change our relationship. And then he gently pushed me back, and he said, I want to show you something.
And I had been looking at engagement rings that day, and I had a pocket full of cards from jewelry stores. And I pulled them out, and Barb had actually bought me, she had gone to the store and bought a goodbye gift for me. I pulled cards out and showed them to her, and I said, I've committed to asking you to marry me, and I've been looking at engagement rings, and I'm sticking by that commitment, and nothing you do or say is going to change my mind.
Oh my gosh. So what did you do when he said that to you? Did you just fall?
I just fell and collapsed in his arms and, was bawling, and I was so grateful. I wasn't sure, though. I'd never really seen a man stay, so I wasn't sure if he was going to stay. But I was so relieved, and we spent the next week, just hoping and praying that retest would come back negative. But when we went back and got the retest, it was positive. Mm-hmm. So they said, you better go see a doctor because you'll need medicine.
Did he go with you for the retest?
Yeah, Rick went with me. He stayed with me that whole week, and then he even he any chance he needed to get off work to come with me, he did. So I got the retest results from my doctor, and he came in, he was shaking, because when I went in, he didn't believe it. He didn't think I could have it. And then he said, yeah, and he said, in fact, your immune system is so depleted that you probably have 2 weeks to a year to live. Yeah.